We're going to start preparing for the semi-final, which is going to be very difficult playing away from home. But we have played with them before, so in the league, so it's going to be very interesting to be up against them.
Boa tarde a todos. Estou muito aqui feliz de conversar com vocês. Claro, a gente está muito preparado para essa semifinal. A gente sabe que é jogo muito difícil, mas como eu falei, a gente está muito preparado, a gente está muito focado para que a gente possa jogar mais outra final.
We have a lot of players, we have a lot of competition within the club, and the guys that have been starting, it's always important for us, especially on a team as we try to keep the same intensity, to keep them on their toes, because everybody's just fighting for a place in the starting lineup. So it's very important as a team to actually win those type of games, because still the one Sundowns, but we just a lot of players, and the rotation is good for us also to get some minutes to actually get to the performance that we want to get as a team. Individually, it's great to be back on the pitch after so long not playing, but I'm focusing on helping the team more. Lucas is a top player, something that arguably we have never seen in this country. He possesses a great finish, left foot that is very to learn from, and yeah, he's a great teammate, he's a brother. We try to help him also when it comes to the English part of the pitch, but he's a great player, and we can't wait to see what more can he produce for us.
Primeiro, fico muito feliz de poder receber elogios de grandíssimo jogador como o Neo e de outros jogadores também. Mas como eu falei, estou muito feliz aqui na África do Sul, jogando num grande time que é o Mamelodi Sundowns. E fico feliz de estar fazendo boas atuações já do ano passado, e esse ano comecei muito bem. E estou muito feliz por estar... por meus companheiros que estão me ajudando, e dentro de campo e fora de campo, com a língua também me ajudando. Bom, estou muito feliz na África do Sul, espero poder estar continuando com essas boas atuações. E bom, é maravilhoso fazer grandes jogos e tá bem, as pessoas falando bem. Isso é bom para o clube e para mim também. Isso mostra que eu estou fazendo um excelente trabalho.
For my career, I would say it's very difficult, and also the coaches made it clear to us that we have a big squad, we have a lot of competitions to play. So I'm just one that takes the instructions from the coaches, Well, it's very difficult, as we want to keep momentum by playing more and actually make sure that you get to a level that you want. But with the many competitions, and also with a lot of players that we have, we can only push and make sure that you show up when you're given the chance to play. There's a lot of great young players in the league, and we make sure that our youngsters, we make sure that we support them, mainly because we know what type of environment they are in. We make them sure that they understand that Sundowns is a team that needs to win every time. Hardly gonna get a second chance, after a bad performance. So we make sure that we help them, also because they are helping themselves with the type of performances that they give out to week in and week out. Even when they're not playing, they never sulk. They make sure that they be available for the next selections, and that's one thing that actually I was admired by the youngsters at our club, and yeah, so it is something that is very interesting to see, and it will help them grow, with also the discipline that comes from within the group to make sure that they stay grounded. It will be an honor, to go home. This will be our second time since I've been here, because I think we played last 16 against Marumo, the first time I went. It's always a great feeling to go back home, where it started, to make sure standing in front of your supporters that have been supporting you from the start of your career. It will be great to go home, also to see my family, and make sure that the supporters that have been supporting me from day one, give them an unforgettable experience and a performance that they will cherish. when I get the chance to play. It's an environment that everybody needs to grow out of. It's somewhere that it's a good for a player to start, because the supporters are very enthusiastic about football. They're very passionate. They look after their players. They support them, and so it's not a regret, to where I am and the man that I am today. It's mainly because of the principles that they have shown me and taught me.
Primeiro, eu estou muito feliz, né, quando eu entro em campo, estou muito feliz e me sentindo solto, livre. Isso é muito importante para nós jogadores, se sentir dessa forma. E graças a Deus as coisas estão fluindo, estou jogando bem, o treinador me dá essa liberdade. E como eu falei, estou me sentindo livre e graças a Deus as coisas estão fluindo e estou jogando bem. E sobre a seleção, a gente sabe a dificuldade da nossa seleção brasileira. Tem muitos grandes jogadores. E claro, se eu receber um elogio ou algo do tipo vindo da seleção, claro que será um prazer enorme. Vou estar muito feliz sobre isso. Mas a gente sabe que é muito difícil, ainda mais sobre os grandíssimos jogadores que tem na seleção brasileira. Mas, como eu falei, estou me sentindo livre, estou me sentindo feliz. Estou feliz aqui na África do Sul. E meus companheiros me ajudam bastante, me dão muitos conselhos. E é isso, estou feliz e espero continuar jogando bem assim pela temporada inteira. Não, os jogadores sul-africanos têm muitas qualidades. Às vezes eu fico até surpreso com tanta qualidade que tem e que não saiu muitos jogadores para jogar na Europa ou em outros continentes, porque tem muitas qualidades. A gente vê jogadores que têm um potencial incrível de jogar um nível muito alto. E como eu falei antes, tem muitas qualidades e não entendo porque ainda não... Acho que não deram essa oportunidade mais para os jogadores daqui para alcançar esse nível, porque potencial tem. Inclusive na equipe Marumo de Sundowns, como outras equipes, tem muitos jogadores que têm qualidade. A gente vê o nosso grande exemplo, que é Ronza, William, é um grandíssimo goleiro, e a qualidade que tem com os pés, e não ter jogado na Europa, a gente fica um pouco... Eu particularmente fico um pouco triste, porque poderia ser um grande exemplo de um jogador como esse estar jogando na Europa e abrir as portas para grandíssimos jogadores aqui na África do Sul. Como eu falei antes, que tem muita qualidade. A verdade é que ainda não chegou a proposta na minha porta ainda. Não, mas a seleção Bafana é uma grandíssima seleção, está mostrando esses anos o quanto estão jogando bem. Inclusive chegaram como terceiro colocado da última competição que jogaram. E tem muitos jogadores aqui do Sundowns e seria um prazer imenso poder jogar pela seleção do Bafana. Se tiver realmente esse interesse para me jogar, acredito que seria mais positivo do que negativo, mas até agora no momento ainda não chegou nenhuma proposta. E se um dia chegar para mim, será um prazer a gente ver e achar a minha situação, mas seria mais para positivo do que negativo. Seria um prazer enorme para representar uma seleção grandiosa como essa.
We've done our work in terms of video analysis. We have looked at probably the last 4 matches that they have played. They are a very good team. Dan has always been that coach that plays very good football. A lot of short passes, but of late he's also developed a culture of some long balls. The goal that was scored by Shai against Stellenbosch is an evidence to that now he also looks for the diagonal dodges, he looks for the balls behind the defense. It's a very good team with a lot of very interesting players. Lulu on the right, very quick dribbler that causes a lot of problems. They still have Mhango, who comes in whenever they need him. Their midfield is very industrious, with Manaka, with Kolam Lambo, with a boy that I think not many people know, that I regard very highly, Sitole. I think he's a very good football player. Not many people talk about him, but I really think he's one of those players that are overlooked. And I like Maboja at left back. I think he's always been a very important player for Marumo. It's a pity that maybe his age is where it is, but he's a very good football player that I would have really considered very, very strongly before. It is true that we've got quite a number of competitions that we compete on. And at this stage, it will be very difficult to say how we have done it because it's still in the inception stages of almost all these competitions. But I think at the end, we'll be able to reflect and say, did our strategy work or did it not work? But at this stage, what I'm just happy about is that we have managed to arrive at this stage of the Champions League without heavy legs, which possibly is caused by the league starting late and also to a certain extent our rotations. Because for me, it's going to be very interesting to see how the team performs if we get into the group stages without any player feeling already that he's jaded and he's tired, the legs are heavy and all that. So we will only be able to give you better answers probably with the outcomes from the competitions that we are going to compete in. And we are very optimistic that we are on the right track. And I'm also very happy that most of these players have raised their hands to say they want to be part of the struggle that we are facing. And hopefully, at the end, it will pay off. I wouldn't say it's an advantage because, one, it's not very easy to manage a very big squad. It's not easy because all these players that are here, they are looking to play week in and week out. And some of them, they probably don't even care them that we are trying to rotate them so that we keep them fresh. There are players naturally who would want to play every match. And when we try to get a buy-in from all of them, you'll find that the senior players that have been here for long, they do understand what we mean by this fatigue as the tournaments progress. But you'll find that on the new players, it's unusual to play and not play and not play when you believe you have done very well. And worse when you have scored or you have created an opportunity and you've got a man of the match award, then the following match you are not part of the squad. But on the side of maybe confusing the opposition coaches, for me that is not the most important part. The most important part is how does the team that gets an opportunity pitch. And that one is always very difficult. And there are many teams that will always surprise you. But there are also many people out there whose teams have never played and they've never lost a match because their teams always play after the match has been finished. They are able to say, if you played so and so and so and so, you could have won this match. If you played this and that, you could have done this, because their teams never get to play. And those opinions become very important when the team is not doing well. But when the team is doing well, it looks good, and everybody will always appreciate the fact that we have done well so far. But when you go to Polokwane City and play the way we played, then it opens up a can of worms, because people start to say, but why was he not using the other team? And the same people have forgotten that the team that played against Polokwane City is the same team that beat Golden Arrows 5-0. So it becomes very, very difficult, because hindsight is always the best side. But the truth of the matter is we are happy that our process is still going the way we have planned. And that, for me, is the most encouraging. The truth is, for me, like I always say, I never even focus on which competition am I playing in, because when you start to look at competitions, I think you end up missing the plot. But if you understand that what you repeatedly do, you become. If you repeatedly win matches, you will ultimately become champions. So habits are as a result of what you repeatedly do. And if we want to develop a habit of winning, we should try to win a friendly match. We should try to win, even if we are playing small-sided games, you must fight to win in those small-sided games. If you are playing a mediocre team from somewhere, you give your best. Your motivation is no longer going to be either intrinsic or extrinsic. Your motivation is always going to be standard, that you play a game of football to win. Not, I play better when I play against big teams. I don't play better when I play small teams. It's not about playing who. It's about what comes out of that game. What do we achieve in that game? Do we respect our tactical agreements? Do we respect our principles in attack and in defense, in transitions? Are we doing what we have trained, what we believe is what is going to help us? And always try to review whatever we have done, regardless whether we're playing against a big team or we're playing against a small team or we're doing it in training, but review and be able to say, but why are you doing this? Because this is not what we are trying to do. And then players get to understand that it's not about the opposition, it's about the match itself. Every match deserves the same respect, because, like I always say, in the championship in particular, you have to win mainly against small teams to win the championship. And if you have a culture of wanting to do well against big teams, it means you will never win the championship. So I think the players now understand what we mean by that. On that one, I wouldn't really want to take credit, because most of these decisions at Sundowns, they are done collectively. You do put your opinion as an individual and say, hey, I think that boy Mudau can help us. Then once you have put that in that group, then everybody starts to look. The analysts start to look. The data analysts start to look. The conditioning guys start to look. The physical data analysts start to look. And you start looking at all these parameters and metrics and start saying, is this specimen likely to give you what you want in that particular position? And I think that helps a lot. And unfortunately, because we are that team that has got a lot of eyes and ears, we are able to listen to one another, probably because we've got confidence in each other's abilities. And that is why we always come out with players that maybe not many people have identified at that time, because at least we know what kind of a fullback we are looking for, what kind of an 8 we are looking for, what kind of a 6 we are looking for. And all these parameters or metrics then help us to be able to look and compare data, and even compare data of the players that we have already with the players that are still outside, and say, if the physical data is saying this about this boy, when we actually believe the one probably we have is supposed to be the one that we think is better, then we start looking and digging deep into those individuals. And I must give the club credit in that regard, because I think we've got a whole lot of people that once the name has been dropped in, we start looking. Coaches start looking at the videos. Everybody starts to focus on that individual, and we know the particular metrics that we are looking for. And probably that's where not many mistakes are made in the process, because it's not a one-man show. Personally, I think because the brain works better with a picture, if the picture is not ambiguous, it's easy to develop towards being able to get to that picture. But if the picture is not clear, today it's second ball, tomorrow it's wing play, that day it's transitional football, that day is build-up. If the picture is not ambiguous, it's easy for a player that is already in-house to want to develop towards what he sees from the player that is already ahead of him. And that probably is what makes it easier for players to adapt to a club like Sundowns. But when we don't have a clear identity of what exactly we are looking for in each and every individual that we bring here, it would always take a little bit longer for a player to understand. And we've got very clear parameters in let me make an example. In our 4-3-3 formation, we know this is what we are looking for in an 8. And we do video almost regularly in this club, where when a player has done well in that position, we say, look at this player, look at what happens after, look at what it does to the opponent. And where the player that is new in the setup is now able to say, if I want to play where Tebza is playing or where Mngqithi is playing, then I'm looking exactly at what he does. And we are given these pictures every day or regularly, if it's not every day. It becomes easier to develop, to understand the concept of the team, instead of maybe a talk or subjective discussions where there is no objectivity and it's too instinctive, it's not very clinical what we are trying to achieve. So I think that is what helps most players to adapt easily here. And the easiest thing that you will get as a player, if you start by just giving your all, because there is one thing that we would not ask for at Sundowns. We would not ask you to work hard, because that one is a given. If you are in this environment and you don't want to work hard, you are in a very wrong place. But when you work very hard, then now the learning process becomes even easier, because you start to emulate someone, and it makes it easier for you because you already have someone ahead who is probably doing better. Maybe you even have better physical attributes than that player. So when you are trying to develop to become that kind of a player, it becomes even easier if you've got all the other metrics probably being better than that particular player. It's quite tough to make those decisions. But we are also guided by the analysis that we do of every opponent, so that we go for courses. You look at the opposition, the style of play, the speed of play, everything. You start then looking at what you have within the group that can help you to overcome the opponents. Because sometimes if you have this team and that team, you will find that team that probably did not play this match, but is supposed to, we are playing the next match, is not the best suited team to play the next match, because probably it's a slow team, probably it's too fast and reckless, probably it's technically not at the level of the one that is playing now. So we look at all these things. I would love to give you better detail in that regard, but it's a little bit difficult. But let me just say, maybe if you play in Cape Town City, it's a very mobile team, very technical, very explosive. Can you get a team within the group you have that is better in terms of all these aspects, where they can dominate you, where they can dominate your jewels? Once you've got the right group of players that you think can overcome these strengths that they have, then you go for mainly those players. And that's why sometimes there are players that continue from the previous match to the next match. But it's a headache. I don't want to lie to you, because everybody believes that if I did not play this one, then I'm most likely playing the next one. But the next one it's not guaranteed that it's yours. But that juggling is very dangerous. We know it's very dangerous, because at a certain point we must start to build cohesion. Because when we go into the Champions League, we must start to have a team that is very close, and we are trying to build the continuity within that group, so that we start now to look at what is closer to our first 11, so that we have a team that we believe can take us all the way in the Champions League, maybe with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 changes, without having to have a whole lot of changes within that group. And also depending on the opponents, even within the Champions League. I wouldn't say Salas is underperforming, to be honest. I think the adaptation process sometimes takes a little bit longer for other players. And I don't know why usually players that are coming from Europe don't really adapt as fast as you want within our football. Our football is very fast. But I think, in my opinion, he's coming along. And I think very soon he's going to be a very important player for the club, because the expectation probably was slightly different to the player that he is. Because a lot of people expected a robust, tall striker that will be winning all aerial duels and all that. And I think I said it even before he started playing, that he's not that type of a player. He's a nippy, very technical player that is very intelligent. And that's why in almost every match that he has played, he's always found himself in front of goals. And that you must never take lightly. When you've got a player that is always part of a chance creation or terminating a chance, you must just work a little bit more on making sure that his conversion rate is very good. I believe in the game against Chiefs, he came in and really got some good moments. And when I looked at the goal that he scored, I don't think it was offside, but I accept that. The referees said it was offside, but when I looked at it when I was doing my analysis, I still believe it was not offside. But for him to get into those positions, and also for the game yesterday, I think his contribution yesterday was very good. And Polokwane City is not as easy as people think. You know, in South Africa, we've got this tendency of having small teams and big teams and not looking exactly at the team itself. I think that team is going to cause a lot of problems. And for a team of Polokwane City's caliber to have 13 points in 6 matches, that's not a joke. That's an average that can take them to 65 points at the end of the season. And if they were to sustain that form, it really says to you, they are not there by chance. They are not in position 3 by chance. And people must not be surprised when they see that team finishing in the top 2 or top 3. They must not be surprised. What will disturb them is themselves, because sometimes we do destroy our good things. Sometimes we are self-destructive. But I really think that team has had continuity. They've kept the same squad, and that squad is a very strong squad. I can mention a lot of big teams that do not have a squad like that. So, in my opinion, I think when you see Sales performing the way he performed against the team that is very strong defensively, and actually having 2 assists in that match, for me that's very big. And I honestly think there is still more we can get from him. And sometimes you might not get the goals that everybody is expecting from him, because what I know better about him is that he always ranks very high on assists. Grant is not injured. Probably the coach just decided. But I think because even in the previous FIFA break, if you remember, before the last one, he was out and Ngezana was in the team, and this time Ngezana did not come and brought Grant, and Grant played well. I do believe we should give the coach freedom to choose his team the way he wants it. I've always been a big fan of Coach Dance. I believe he's a very good football coach. And I've always believed he needs to look at the game probably with a bigger scope and not just your own principles, because a game of football, in my opinion, is played according to situations. And if you are fixed to a particular type of football, you might not get where you are supposed to be. I've always thought he's one of the best coaches who had a particular style of play, but I've always felt in the past he's not very incisive. He does not play to kill. He plays to help the crowd to enjoy the game, because he plays very good football and he can frustrate any opposition with the ball. But when I say in the past I used to complain that at times I think it does not play to situations. Because when opponents are giving you space behind, you should take it. Why don't you take it? And opponents are giving you space in between the lines, you should try to take it. You should not say, I'm fixed to what I know best. And I'm so happy when I see him bringing all these other elements into the game, because I think that's where he was shortchanged sometimes, because our bosses want points, want to win matches, and no matter how good your team is playing, no matter how good your team is developing, as a result, if you check how many players he has developed in the process, because there are a lot of players that he has developed because he plays the right type of football. But unfortunately, that right type of football, if it does not always bring the results, you end up being out, but they bring somebody in and they realize, we were better off with Dance, and they bring him back. And most of the teams that have hired Dance, they always take him out and bring him back, because he's a good coach. And he is clear on his principles, and he helps a lot of players that he works with. He really, really helps players, because he's always been a good development coach that helps players to develop and become better than what they were, and become even more comfortable playing football under pressure of space, opponent, and time without any fear. And that has always helped him to be brought back all the time. But now, to keep his jobs, because these clubs also want to win, I think it also helps him to start now to have a little bit more dynamism in his game. When I see a ball played into the box like that by a team that is coached by Dance, I say, wow, this is big. And I don't even think it's because he wants to please the bosses. I think he also realizes that he leaves a club that is playing well, and somebody else comes in and he does well a little bit, and it looks like the other one has done better, when in essence he's the one who has laid the foundation. And I'm very excited to be even playing him, because I know the game will be a very interesting game of football, and it will not be an easy game of football at all, not by any means. And for whatever reason, he has done very well in cup competitions. And one must always have that respect for him.